The next presenter is Mr. Lee Ho-sang, Director and Associate Professor of Incheon National University, Institute for Japanese Studies. We'll be looking at the effect of international airport construction on the local community in Japan, the case of Kansai Airport, as an example of an overseas case. So, Professor Lee is the head of general affairs of the Korean Urban Geographical Society and serves as director of the Association of Japanology in East Asia and the Association of Korean Cultural and Historical Geographers. He is the director of Institute for Japanese Studies and Japanese Regions Research Center at the Incheon National University and associate director of the Interdisciplinary Institute for Regional Humanities Information at the same school.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you. As introduced, I am Lee Ho-sang from Incheon National University. I majored in geography and now I am teaching Japanese regional studies at the university. Today I would like to talk about how when a new international airport is built, what kind of impact there will be on the community. I'm not just going to share the story of Japan, but I'd like to also talk about Incheon because that is where I work. Unlike other presentations you heard before, which focused on what to do with the record and preservation of the past life of Kadok, but I want to focus on future life of Kadok, how to write down that into history by mobilizing the humanities imagination. First of all, how do we look at international airports from a local perspective? What do international airports mean? When these airports were developed around the world, there have been many strategies, most notably world city, large city, growth strategy, and competitiveness was a key part of building airports. And from that sense, Busan, what kind of future strategy and city strategy does Busan have in mind in building the Kadokdo airport? Is it just to rather than taking an approach from aviation traffic in setting up a city's future strategy, how to make the airport a key contributor should be the question asked. And secondly, airport and surrounding area development to bolster international logistical competitiveness can be another aim for building an airport. When we first decided to build this airport, the main reason was logistics. But as the design changed, the logistics complex went away. Of course, land will be reclaimed for another industrial site, but there is no vision for that logistics complex. And third, revitalizing local economy and regional development is another goal. Here, the word local may mean a lot of different things. Kadokdo, Busan, the Korean Peninsula, East Asia are all local areas. So we need to approach the concept of local from a number of different ways and look at what kind of role Kadokdo will play. To give it the conclusion first, Daemadol was in Joseon period, and Kadokdo will become the bridgehead between Korea and Japan. And secondly, direct impact. Of course, the airport terminal may have a huge economic impact. And secondly, it can dramatically improve accessibility. And it's not just about air traffic. Railroad and other infrastructure, transportation infrastructure plans coming out will improve accessibility. And third, logistics industry can grow. As you know, Kadokdo is followed the development of the Busan new port, and the area is very much port-based. So the logistics of ports and logistics of airports are quite different. Placed head-to-head, you cannot carry heavy cargo on planes. Ships are used to do that. High added value products are used, what goes on to planes, but we don't have specific plans yet. And for tourism, And for local commercial development, we need to be cautious that airports, yes, we go to airports to travel outside Korea, but we just pass through the airport for travel. We don't stay at the airports to live and shop. Incheon built an airport with 40-50 billion won of investment, but many of those districts are not doing well, including Yeongjongdo. And there's also the services that can develop. And of course, the international businesses and human-to-human exchanges. So it seems like a rosy picture. Will the local area grow as long as airports are built? That's not the case. If you refer to other cases, there are cities that grew with the airport, but many cases where the airport did not perform its role and really became a pain point for the local area. Building an airport, just because a plan is finalized, should not be the end. As you can see, what happens going forward is really important. The final goal of building an airport is not to expand the airport, but to incur local growth. In the Southeast Korean region, you wanted to build an airport because you wanted local growth. Then what kind of local growth strategy would be needed? Well, let's look to Japan. The Kansai International Airport is, aside from the Osaka airport, called Itami Airport, just like where we have Kimhae Airport. But with the growing demand for flights, and because there were no jets at the time, and with the land development nearby the international airport, environmental degradation became a serious issue. And as you can see here, an airport offshore was to be built, and what you see here is called the Rinku town. And on the top is the bridge that you have to cross to reach the airport. And on the bottom, the colorful area is the Rinku town, an international new city like Incheon, Cheongdo, and Cheongna and Songdo, role model for Incheon, Songdo, and Cheongna. But this Rinku town underwent a crisis because as the bubble burst in the Japanese economy in 1994, with the Kansai airport opening up, Rinku town faced a crisis. And it wasn't just the Rinku town. The city of Izumi Sano, because Kansai Airport is not located in Osaka, it is located in the city of Izumi Sano, and the city was on the verge of fiscal insolvency. There was no problem before the airport was built, but in the 1994, as soon as the airport opened, the city started mounting debt, and that was the same for Incheon. Everything was fine before the airport was built, but after the airport opened, a very serious debt issue piled up. And this is because before the airport opened up, yes, the construction continues, but once operation starts, the investment has to be recovered, but that didn't happen. And when that doesn't happen, all the municipal bonds issued will be mounted as debt. And even the airport corporation and Airport Inc., in the case of Japan, they suffered a major business crisis. And because the construction cost was exponentially larger than expected, and 200 billion yen of interest cost was incurred every year, and this was sold to a French consortium, taking up 40% of the equity. So, using taxpayers' money to build an airport, ending up selling the airport to a foreign investor, that received heated criticism. At the bottom is the Kansai Airport, and on the top you see the Osaka International Airport at the very top, and there's another airport in the middle. That's the Kobe Airport. Kansai Airport was supposed to be built there, but because of local resistance, it was located down south. So the Kansai region is mainly developed in the northern area, and the cause for building the Kansai airport in the south was to develop the southern part. But because the airport is too far away, it does not link with the city, and the development is yet to come. So there are 4 reasons why the development was not very good, and this comes from Osaka Prefecture and not from my own analysis. First of all, there was excessive expectation for the impact of airport. There was a lack of industrial policy, and the urban planning was too idealistic. This is one of the reasons why the Ringu Town development failed. And that is Japan's own analysis. And ultimately, the Izumi Sano city, where Kansai Airport is located, the population is actually declining. As I said before, the city was near insolvent and the population is shrinking. So the airport was constructed, but did it end up developing the region? No. In the case of Incheon, yes, you know that in number of measures, in the metrics, Incheon has grown, and it is one of the top airports in the world. And there are 660 companies related to the airport itself, and 77,000 people are employed. But the city of Incheon also had to undergo many very tough, difficult moments. After Incheon Airport opened, the city experienced a fiscal crisis and was placed on the fiscal crisis watch list by the central government. And this was because of hosting the Incheon Asian Games, constructing the second subway line, and there were many other civic engineering projects that were concentrated during this time because since the airport was being constructed, the city wanted to really revived the city area by making excessive investment. So Yeongjong Sky City, there are Songdo and Cheongna areas, 4 trillion won went in for urban development. And if you see on the right-hand side, the airport opened in 2001, and every year, 14.5-fold increase in city debt was the result. And that was not because of the construction of the airport itself, but after opening the airport, the city didn't have a strategy of how to respond. So without such a long-term plan, just like Kansai Airport and Incheon Airport, the city will face fiscal cliff. Then what's the task for Kadokdo new airport? Well, number one, finalizing construction of an airport is not the end but the beginning of local revitalization. You need to start right now about how to revitalize the Busan and Kadokdo and what kind of island we will make out of Kadokdo and what kind of record we will be writing. And number 3, for this presentation, I looked at many different news reports from Busan. And I wrote down what is missing. To introduce to you just a few of these points, how to develop the hinterlands of the airport. There is no mid to long-term urban development plan about that. According to the 2040 mid to long-term urban plan development of Busan, it says, yes, they will develop the Gangso district, but if you look at the specific, the Gangso district is from Kadokdo to Kimhae Airport. And we need to find some kind of plan of how the development will happen. The Kadak Airport, Kimhae, the Newport, Kimhae Airport, and the Newport. There's nothing about how to develop those areas. And this one is the BUTX line planned and just out. And the line follows the coast. Personally, I think this should begin from Kadokdo and connect to Kimhae Airport and then to Busan train station. That, I think, would be more realistic and practical from an outside perspective. I don't know what the Busan citizens believe, though. And as I said, from Kadokdo to Kimhae Airport, this Gangso line, how to use this line as an axis for future growth of Busan? This is the question we need to ask. And just one more thing. At the very bottom, I write down that absorbing flight demand in Western Japan. The reason for building the airport says nothing other than Seoul Why do you only look at the land? You need to look to the ocean. There's Japan across the ocean. From here to Fukuoka, the distance is only like this. This is between Busan and Daejeon, so it is very short. And the Seoul and Incheon distance to Seoul and Incheon is as long a distance to connect this place to Hiroshima and Kyushu. So Kadokdo shouldn't look to Incheon International Airport as a competitor. You need to look at how to strategize yourselves as an international airport connecting to Japan. Hinterland population of Kadok Airport should not be the Yeongnam area, but Japan and all the regional residents. I spent the last weekend in Japan, and Japan is looking to Busan because Japan lacks the workforce. There's no truck drivers, and next year the workers will no longer work overtime at night. And so these employers are looking at Busan Port and Busan New Port, but Busan doesn't seem interested. And one last point, Incheon. At the bottom there is Hongdo, that arrow there. This land is not yet reclaimed. The Songdo Knowledge Information Industrial Complex, that is the only place that is developed, and the hinterland area, more than half the areas is not yet developed and not even reclaimed. It's been 20 years since the airport was built, and the reclaiming began 30 years ago, but still the land is underdeveloped. So that is why I say the mid to long-term plan is important. And if you look around, on the left, there is the airport, and Songdo wasn't an international city built because of the airport. If you look around, there are many industrial complexes and the Incheon port all located together. So Kadokdo should not be seen in relation to the airport. You need to look at the industry, infrastructure, and other backbone facilities and set up a mid to long-term comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Lee. As mentioned, the new airport and the local perspective of looking at the airport and including all that, setting up a future strategy for Busan should be reviewed. Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. And